Steven, thank you so much for coming on. Much appreciated.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You want to dive into a little bit kind of about who you are so the audience can have a good understanding before we get into all the juicy stuff we talked about behind the scenes?
100%. Yeah, the behind the scenes stuff, we got to do that on camera because it sounded super valuable. So, yeah, Steven Helmkamp, hailing from the Panhandle area of Florida, Gulf Breeze specifically. Went to college, business school at University of Central Florida in Orlando. And during that time, I wanted to be an actor. So after business school, I was like itching to get out of college and go to Hollywood, go to LA and try to be the next Tom Cruise and Ryan Seacrest. And dabbled in that, had a little bit of success, small roles here and there and some commercials, which would kind of float me until I got my next job. And I was bartending in between and just kind of doing whatever odd job I could. And a mentor of mine who I met just through my network of just being out in the world, and the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
So true.
He told me, he's like, man, you don't want to be a broke, struggling actor, dude. He's like, you need a sales job, because that was his background. That allowed him to have a great life, great income, provide for a family, but also go be a writer and actor in LA and do other things. So I had another friend that was in medical sales, outside sales, not inside sales. I'm not stuck in a cubicle working at 95 where I can't leave the office and everyone knows what I'm doing, where I'm at all the time. So outside sales was my ticket to not be a struggling actor, to have a great life, have my own apartment, my own car. And if this acting thing didn't ever work out, I have a backup plan. So got into medical sales. And then once I started to make some money and I'm able to kind of move around in the world and travel, go to Europe and do this, take girls out on nice dates, I'm like, man, this TV thing kind of sucks, bro. I just want to go get rich. I want to get wealthy and then maybe come back to it later in life. So that's been kind of my journey. Following, really getting into the business sector and through medical sales, that's my W-2 active income. I've been able to get into real estate and increase that income as well, which we can also get into. So
absolutely. So just so the audience knows, we haven't met yet. So it's kind of going to be, I think, us getting to know each other while being filmed, right? I don't know if you know, but I actually have a history in like acting, modeling as well.
Nice.
So when I turned 18, I went to my first semester of college and then moved to New York. And I studied at Lee Strasberg Acting School in New York. And
it's
I was
the best.
Doing modeling, kind of weeding my way through that, right? And I think that was a lot to do with my mom. My mom always had that vision of, hey, it would be cool if you would be an actor or a model, whatever the case. So she kind of like pushed me in there. Found out I didn't really like it. I'm more business-minded like yourself. So I think there's a little bit of a connection here. Is like, no, I want to make money. I don't want to struggle and sit there like I was doing high-end catering. Like I was with this catering company, so similar to you in the bartending space.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, I mean, so that's how you got to make it work to get started in that industry, because you're not going and getting bookings and all those things. So I understand that side of it as well.
Totally. Yeah, and I'm much happier now. I feel like it just making money gives you that sense of independence, right? And I think especially for men, it's important
Options.
that we're able 100%.
Options.
We're able to provide and do stuff, and it's like we don't feel like a loser in the sense of we can't even afford our own rent or pay our bills and stuff. So it's just a sense of pride too. I think that comes along with making money, and having options, like you said. So
I always like to say, I want to be so wealthy that if my mom is sick back at home, I can jump on a private jet in 10 minutes and go fly and like see her. Like, you know what I mean? Like no questions asked. Like I drop everything I'm doing. I have that freedom in my life. I can fly private so I don't have to sit and wait, because who knows what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like I just want like all those options. Like that's as wealthy, I think, as my goal is, right? And then there's a certain point in life where you make so much money that it doesn't matter beyond that. Right. And I think that's kind of an interesting place. It's like you're grinding to get to this certain level. Once you hit the certain level, it doesn't matter, and you have to find external motivation and do all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think seeing what level you can get to in life is also kind of the fun.
100%. Otherwise, you get bored.
Right. You have to have something driving you, right? So my motto is always like, I want to get better mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially a little bit every day.
100%.
And so even when I do get to that point when it's $20 million, because a lot of rich people say that's all you need, right? You take a chunk of that, you put it in a high interest yielding savings account, you live off the interest, you've got your investments paying you, you don't need to make another dollar after that.
10% return, that's $2 million a year off the interest.
Right.
Call it $2 million a year, that's pretty good.
You're chilling.
Yeah, you're pretty chilling.
But yeah, you got to have that drive, that purpose. So it's also not only what can you do for your family, go take care of your mother, or philanthropy or donations.
Which is a tax write-off, and that's why everyone does it.
Love it. Love it. 100%. Right. But it's also like, what else are we doing in life? Let's move and shake, you know?
100%.
So, yeah, well, that's a really interesting backstory. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So now I have to say this. You have blue eyes.
Yeah.
You're wearing a blue shirt.
Yeah.
I only wear blue. You will never catch me ever without a blue shirt on.
Why is that?
For
to make
this
the
reason.
eyes
Exactly.
enhance.
Exactly.
Use what you got.
Exactly. It's free, man. It's free. So this happened maybe 2 years ago. I threw every shirt away in my closet. It's only blue. Like you go in my closet back there, only blue. And now I just wear this shirt because it's sporting my logo, and I ordered 16 of them. And some people probably think, how is this man in this shirt every single podcast, every single day? I have a ton of them. But is that something you practice as well, is only wearing blue, or is it just today so happened to wear blue?
Today just so happened to wear blue. But I am a big
it.
believer in use what you got. Use what the Lord gave you. Don't apologize for it. If you're tall, you're handsome, you got blue eyes, be on camera. Why the hell not? I'm 6'2".
You got me beat. I'm 6'9".
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like, even if you're not, like, whatever you have, if you're funny, right? If you're muscular, if you're this or whatever, like, use what you have and don't be apologetic for it.
100%.
At all. Because life's tough. And in this game of business and real estate or sales, like, you need every advantage
and nobody
have.
has everything.
Totally.
Right. So, an example to jump back into, I talked about a couple podcasts ago. I thought Tom Brady had the perfect life, right? And then all of a sudden he's getting divorced with his wife and all these things, right? I used to look at that man and be like, man, that man has everything. And I think in today's world, it's so hard to be balanced in everything. And what I mean by that is, like, have the wife and kids if that's your goal, have the financial freedom, have the health, have this, have that. It seems that everybody has that one Achilles heel. Now, I want to jump back into this. So there was I forget his name, but he was a big developer, right? Massive, like ton of money right here in Gables Estates. And him and his, like, he has all the money in the world. It looked like he had this perfect life. And then he ended up trying to kill his wife and then ended up committing suicide, right? So, like, my thing with this is, like, you never know what is on the back end of this, right? So do use what you have and try not to be... I think a lot of people are insecure about certain things that could, like, really give them power if they leaned into it, which I think is kind of where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own uniqueness. You know, you speak about a guy who has it all, and then all of a sudden they don't. And I think for me personally, that's just a lack of God. I think that if you have God as the cornerstone and you are actively pursuing a relationship with him, I think that gives you a sense of hope. I think it gives you and your spouse and your friends and everyone in your network a sense of, hey, community, we're doing life together. We are nothing without him, you know? So, yeah, that's super important to me. But yeah, definitely everyone has their own uniqueness. I mean, you're wearing only blue, so that I think that helps with your brand as well. And especially as you're trying to grow your brand, it's also identifying. So when people do see you and they see you in that blue, they're like, oh, we know him, Alec. Yeah, he does that real estate podcast with different people on and stuff.
Exactly.
So it's more identifying quicker for people.
My mind goes here. Maybe somebody's a little overweight and not the best looking, but they're hilarious. Jonah Hill, for example.
Yeah.
Bro, like, dive right into that. He uses that. He crushes it. And, like, it's such a great thing.
People love it because he's authentic.
Exactly.
He's honed his skill at being funny, because doing comedy, bro, it's a skill, especially in front of a camera. You're doing a series or something like that on TV. It is a honed skill, timing. You've got to know, hit every beat, every inflection point. It's really difficult, but Jonah Hill, for example, is a master at it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's kind of segue out of that section there. Now, let's talk about more of your outside sales versus inside sales. You touched a little bit before on why that's a big difference, but can we dive a little bit deeper, right? Because I think there's some people that are stuck in inside sales and they're like, man, I want to get out of this cubicle. I want to go out in the world and kind of explore that. But why do you say that that's such an important thing?
Because I wanted to do other things. Okay. So I think if you are in an inside sales job, you are inside an office. You cannot leave and go to do a podcast or go to an audition or go look at a real estate property in the afternoon, right? You're there 9 to 5 plus your commute beforehand and your commute home afterwards. Mm-hmm. And then you got to go to the gym. If that's what you do, you got to eat, you got to go to the grocery, you got to pick up the kids, whatever. So by the time you get home, even though if you didn't even work that hard, just being in that office can be mentally draining. So you want to get home and just chill, right? You want to eat, you want to relax a little bit before you know it's 9 o'clock, you're tired. So outside sales put me in a position where it's like, okay, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to get out there and do everything I need to do. I'm all about fulfilling my obligation for that job. I'm not a fan of getting a job and then just ripping the company off and not showing up and performing. And in my job specifically, numbers talk. If you don't hit your numbers at the end of the month or the end of the quarter, you ain't going to be here around too much longer if you're not hitting goals. So my thing is, okay, let me go pedal to the metal 9 to 2, and I'm going to go hit all these doctors right here.
So do you sell, like, you go to their office physically and like try to sell them a piece of equipment that is under your umbrella or manufacturer? Or
depends what you're selling. So in medical sales, there's a lot of different facets. You can sell pharmaceuticals, you can sell devices, you can sell diagnostics, you can sell all kinds of different things. So for me, my job is just to get the physician to use my test, a diagnostic test. Whereas you might have a device you're selling to orthopedics and you actually need to be in the operating room with the orthopedic while he's doing surgery, and you're like a more consultant in that sense. That's much more time consuming.
So you chose the least time consuming.
Just kind of by default.
It looked like it worked out.
It just kind of, I didn't know. I just knew I wanted to be in outside sales, medical sales, because my buddy was in it.
Sure.
And then I got into like disposables. I was selling catheters. That was my first job into the industry. And a lot of people ask me, how do I get into it? Treat it like a job when you're trying to get a job. I was spending 8 hours a day, LinkedIn, medreps.com, which is like a Indeed, but specifically for medical sales rep. Every medical sales rep I knew, I was hitting them up, asking them questions. Who's your network? Let me see your resume. YouTube, and what does a good resume look like? What's a brag book? Let me put some stuff together. And then 8 hours a day, dude, I'm hitting recruiters, hitting managers of certain companies because they're the ones hiring. And then finally I got an interview, and I failed multiple interviews before I got to the interview that landed me the job. But those failed interviews gave me reps.
What was the interview like? Was it like, sell me this catheter, for example?
Some of them. Sell me this
like
pen.
Sell me the pen?
Thing, yeah.
Wow.
And I had a buddy through just going out and saying, hey, I need help, guys. This is what I'm trying to do. And another friend that was in pharmaceutical sales, said, hey, here's a playbook that I give to people trying to break into the industry. And it was a beautiful, like 1 to 20 top questions that a hiring manager will ask you.
Sure.
So I just role played it.
Sure.
You know, and anyone that wants to get in the game now, I send them this whole big email that somebody helped me like 12 years ago with.
So where can they contact you if they want to get into med sales so that you can send this book?
Yeah. You can hit me up on Instagram. It's at my name, at Stephen Helmkamp.
Okay. And that's so STEVENHELMKAMP.
That's it.
Awesome. So if you're looking to get into med sales, he's going to send you this playbook.
Happy to help you. Yeah, it's a playbook that will definitely help. And your first few interviews, you're not going to know what the heck you're talking about, and you're going to stumble, you're going to fumble, but that's a rep. And then finally, I was more prepared when I got another interview with a guy who finally gave me a face-to-face interview. I went and bought a suit at Nordstrom. I still had the tag on it during the interview. I didn't even realize. No, he was like, dude, you got your tag on your suit. I'd never worn a suit before. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not supposed to be there.
So my girlfriend will go buy clothes and leave the tag on and then wear it once and return it. So I didn't know if it was something like that.
But I like the hustle. I was fully invested in the suit. I just didn't know how to wear it, apparently. But he took a chance on me, man, gave me a job. And then once you're in, you're in. You know, so from that, I learned that this job is great. It gave me a stepping stone, but it's not that great of a job because now I'm more industry experienced. I want this job. Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
You always have to break into the industry first to figure out what is the best option in that industry, right? Like everybody thinks like, unless you have somebody telling you and coaching you that has been through that scenario, like you have to get in and then learn.
100%.
Like it's the same with real estate. I feel like you get in, you get your feet wet, and then you learn like, okay, this, and this, I can do this, and that. So I think that's across the board for any industry.
You're absolutely right.
Get your feet wet, and then you'll be able to problem solve to the best possible solution.
You got options.
100%.
Back to the options things.
100%.
Now 100%. I'm more attractive for other companies because I have experience and I have relationships with the customers that these other companies are selling to.
100%.
And I know who these other companies are now.
How long did it take you to build those relationships and get on your feet with the sales side of things? Because I know that there's a little bit of W-2 in there, but do you get commission as well?
Yeah. It was a salary plus commission plus benefits plus a car allowance. I think they gave me at the time. Some jobs give you a company car. So because I was so young and hungry and this was my chance to make six figures. I think the total all-in salary and commission was like $120,000 or something like that. That was a lot of money to me back 12, 13 years ago, whatever. And that's still a lot of money to a lot of people. And so I hit it hard. I was like, I was still doing some auditioning and stuff, but not really. I'm like, I'm going all in on this. I'm trying to make that full 120. I was still trying to do some of that. I would bring, if I had an audition, I'd bring a change of clothes in my car.
Sure.
So I'd change out of the suit and tie from doctor's office. I'd drive over here, do the audition, change in my car, and
that's amazing.
Change back and hit it. I mean, I'm hustling, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to build this dream career that I thought I had, and then also hold down this other job and turned out to be a great career that flourished for me in other ways. So yeah, it took like 6 months of, training and working with the guy who hired me. He was kind of like the part owner of the company too. It was a small company. And then after a year, I had so many relationships and other opportunities. I was able to move and bounce around. And so I bounced like every year and a half. Every year and a half.
Bro. That's amazing.
To a new company.
Because your salary increases so much.
Every
right?
time.
Oh,
I just kept getting pay raises.
So that's what, there's a couple people that have been reaching out to me like, hey, I want to buy real estate. And I'm like, job shop and job hop. And then take that offer that you get from the next job back to your current employer and see if they will match it or raise it. And then if they match it or raise it, stay. Right. And then it's like, okay. Because you can do that. Like
that can be a double-edged sword.
100%.
I love where you're going with this. There is a risk to that.
I feel like some companies won't hire you if you jump too much because they know that the same thing is going to happen to them.
Correct.
So you have to play your cards. How did you play your cards and like dive into that?
Even if you go back to your current employer and say, hey, I went and interviewed, went the distance, because usually it's 3 to 4 interviews before you get that offer letter. Okay. Right? And I spent all this time doing that. And if you don't raise my pay, I'm going to leave. If I'm the owner of that company, I'm saying, you're already out. You were gone 2 months ago. You just hadn't told us yet. Bye.
Sure.
So you need to be really careful with that. And you will, it's a small world in the industry.
Sure.
Whatever industry you're in. If
your reputation's going to follow you everywhere,
dude.
Right? Yeah.
Real estate in Miami, if you're a horrible realtor, no one's going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
Same thing in medical sales.
Yep.
So you want to be careful with that. I was fully committed to go into the next job because I knew that the pay was going to be more. So you didn't take the offer letter back? I did not go back and try to negotiate and raise and ask for more.
Okay.
I just leaped into the next company, but every year and a half, I kept bumping up my pay. It did bite me in some interviews where, I was a job hopper and a little bit of a flight risk, but I was able to overcome that through just...
Sales is high turnover anyway.
If you're not cutting it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was able to overcome that just because I had so much experience and selling to physicians, which are very smart people, and I am a bachelor degree educated guy and you're dealing with physicians
Okay.
that have been in school for 10 or 15 years and you're educating them on your product.
Yeah. So there's a difference of selling to highly educated people and financially literate people than people that aren't. For example, in the real estate space, moving from Wisconsin, it was a lot of first-time home buyers that have never purchased. In Coral Gables, they're all loaded and have purchased 12 homes in their life and probably own 15 other investment properties. So that sell is a lot different than kind of the uneducated people. The uneducation is a spot of darkness and unknown. So it's easy to kind of close somebody on that because you're their shining knight, right? Like you're the knight in shining armor coming to save the day. But when they have established relationships and they're done this 50,000 times, different ball game.
Totally.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Kind of in that space.
You're dealing with really savvy investors. Yeah. And so physicians, it can be very intimidating. That's why a lot of people don't make it. Mm-hmm. And the good sales reps can make a lot of money because, again, these doctors are overwhelmed, overworked. The time that they spend with patients today is much less than probably what they used to spend because insurance does not pay them as much money per patient or as they would when they spend all that time with patients. So they could essentially see fewer patients and spend more time with them and make good money. Nowadays, it's kind of volume in a lot of doctors' offices. So that's something you're going up against when you walk into an office and you're trying to get that physician's attention for 5-10 minutes, sometimes even 30 seconds.
Which is pulling them away from a customer or two, which is money in their pocket.
Yeah, dude. They got procedures going on. They got staff. They got to do chart notes.
So what's your approach? This is going to make your process so much more efficient that you're going to be able to see X amount more people per day. Is that kind of the approach that you're taking?
Find the pain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Find the pain point.
Yeah.
You know, hey, doctor, do you have any patients that struggle on endocrine therapy? I know they do. And that's part of my tests, what my test can solve. I know the answer is yes. Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, they struggle with bone density, osteoporosis cases, bone fractures. Awesome. What if I have a test, right, that can help you determine which patients are going to benefit or which patients are not. We can spare them from those toxicities so they won't have those problems anymore. And we're on the NCCN and NASCO guidelines, and I've got a pamphlet right here that they can take away and walk. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, great. Can I spend 2 minutes with you? I let them know ahead of time. It's only going to be a 2-minute deal.
Do you book an appointment and then show up to their location, or do you just show up to the location?
Most of the time, you just got to show up.
So it's basically door knocking for like doctors.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome.
You try to book a lunch or a breakfast or something, and they will see you, but their calendars are so full with all these reps and all these companies that it's hard to get a spot.
Sure.
So a lot of times you walk in with Starbucks or donuts or whatever, and getting past the gatekeeper is the toughest thing. Wow. That front desk person.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's like, hey, Maria, I got your favorite chocolates. You think he's got 30 seconds for me today? The answer is for sure no, but you can wait and see. And you see him walking by.
Yeah, you're like, hey.
100%. Have you ever seen that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway? Love and Other Drugs?
Bro, I'm so lackluster in the movie space. I'm sorry.
Anybody that's interested in medical sales should go watch that movie because Jake plays a medical sales rep selling Viagra.
Oh my.
And him getting into the business and the whole just following his journey. It's hilarious.
You know, the gentleman that created Viagra lives on the Venetian island somewhere. I forget which island, but he imported palms at $100,000 or $200,000 per tree, and it lines his whole entire point corner lot on the island.
Amazing.
So it's,
oh my God.
Yeah. If you take any of those boat tours, like the super touristy ones that I took when I first moved down, you'll experience that and see that. But it's like a beautiful, beautiful.
He's probably having neighborhood parties with Diddy.
Popping
off little party favors, Viagra, you know, his party favors. Right, yeah.
That's so crazy. Funny.
Crazy what's going on with that.
So that's interesting, man. That's like, I see a lot of that in real estate too, and the real estate sales side of things. Sales kind of in and of itself together it's majority like the same thing over and over again.
You got to hustle, man. You got to be professionally polite and professionally persistent. And you got to know your shit. Mm-hmm. When that doctor does give you a minute, yeah, what's up? What do you got? If you stumble, fumble, you don't got your iPad ready with your pamphlet or whatever, like, bro, you're not professional. Sure. Come on, dude. Like, if I came here and you didn't know what the hell was going on or whatever, I'd be like, fuck, Alec, this will be the last time I do this.
Yesterday
you know?
I canceled a podcast because the female said that she was going to be here at 12, said she was going to be here at 12:30. She's like, can I do 12:30? And I'm like, yeah. Next thing you know, I text her at 12:30, like, where are you? She goes, I'm on my way. I'll be there at 1. And I'm like, turn right around. I literally said this, like, I'm probably going to post about it because like, it's so annoying. So when you're going to a doctor, that's
it's disrespectful of your time too.
It's so crazy. She didn't show up. She still showed up at the house at 1:15 trying to meet me, and I'm on the phone with an attorney. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to come out to the door and meet you. You're an hour and 15 minutes late.
Yeah, and I texted you before I got here. I was like, I'm going to be there at 15 minutes early.
Appreciate that, man.
You know what I mean? Which is really on time for me. For something like this is the first time we've met. I want to make a good impression.
100%.
Right? Maybe you'll invite me back.
100%.
So I respect what you're trying to do here and your
in
time.
sales.
You know what I mean? And because I showed up early, you're like, oh, he's cool. He's well-spoken. You know, you will hopefully maybe invite me back one time.
And because you wear blue.
And because I wear blue, right? But at least I'm giving myself a good chance
100%.
to make a good impression and get invited back. So if you're in sales or if you're calling on a owner of a property that you're trying to get the listing for, professionally persistent. 100%. Be concise too in your outreach. Be concise in that elevator pitch I got with that doctor. Be sharp. Practice what you're going to say.
100%.
So all of those things really have helped me have success in that career and be able to get other opportunities to bounce to a higher paying medical sales job, which then has allowed me to take that money and buy real estate.
Hell yeah, brother.
We want to segue into that, right? You know?
So you mentioned outside sales and the freedom that it gives you, right? Now, but your Instagram's on private, which we were talking behind the scenes. Can you dive into a little bit of that privacy space and kind of you're transitioning to public maybe?
Yeah, so it's private because I have a W-2 job and it's outside sales, and you know, I want to fulfill that obligation to them. But if I'm ever not where I should be in the sense of looking at a real estate property or working on a renovation or doing something else and I want to Instagram and show it, I don't want my boss to see that.
Why aren't you working?
Right, exactly. Even if my numbers are good, what if I have a down month and then he sees that, oh, you're not even out working. I saw you on a Tuesday here and there. So I've had it on private for so long because of that. But now I'm getting to a point where I'm buying my way out of corporate, right? Which is also my motivation. So we live in Miami. I'm friends with a ton of influencers and they all have huge personal brands. And there's so much money in that, right? And that's what...
Astronomical.
That's what you're building now.
Astronomical. But it is so... If you're fully committed to that space, you're losing a lot of opportunity on the back end like you're talking about. I mean, the shit that I talk about to go semi-viral is so controversial. Mm-hmm. It is so controversial. So, right, like if I ever do want to go get a W-2 job for any reason, they're going to look at my Instagram. Man, this guy talks about Ozempic, talks about 6-foot-tall women, talks about fat people, talks about this, talks about that. He's got a handlebar mustache and a Band-Aid on
I haven't seen any of those clips yet.
Because it's retaining, right? And to grow on social nowadays is so freaking hard. There's like a zillion posts every day. And if you're not controversial, like think of all the big people that... A lot of them started in a controversial space and then they swap it. Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Meet Kevin, like all these people. It's such an interesting ball game.
That is interesting. Yeah. I mean, I just want to talk about stuff that gives value, things that I feel passionate about, and things that I think maybe some other people are scared to talk about. You know, today I don't think we're getting into any of those topics, whether it be political or what have you.
Politics, which you mentioned before in the 2016 when you were working Hillary Trump, right?
Yeah, I was on like a podcast talking about Hillary and Trump.
Politics is like a great way to break in. Patrick Bet-David has Valuetainment, which he then funnels into his personal brand. Bro.
I love PBD. Yeah, I just watched the podcast with him and Stephen Baldwin this morning. So good. And so what PBD has not announced yet, I think he's going to, is they just bought a huge studio and they're going to start doing movies. So he's often said he's going to make Fort Lauderdale the new Burbank. What's in Burbank? Wow. Movie studios. Mm-hmm. That's what he's going to do, plant his flag. I mean, he's really trying to be a prominent voice. He already is. In the media space.
He's a genius, bro.
Everything that he's doing, I highly value. I've actually met with all those guys. And there might be an opportunity.
Did you go to their event like 2 weeks ago?
I didn't go to the Vault, no. But I've had a meeting with... some of his top people over there, and there might be an opportunity for me to do something under their umbrella.
Oh yeah.
So it helps to do shows like this, and with my other buddy.
You're gonna sell your soul though. There's no going back once you go there, right? Because
where?
If you go do something like that with him, your W-2 is fried.
You're all in.
I
yeah,
think.
and I probably would be okay with leaving that
An
W2
opportunity
to go
like
do that.
that,
Yeah,
bro.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, for me, kind of like back to the buying the income thing. And so with the Instagram, should I open it up and make it private or not? I mean, I don't really care either way at this point, but it's been why I've kept it private for so long. But now that I've got more options, because I've increased my income,
Your freedom.
through buying exactly Airbnbs, right? I buy them, I renovate them, I put them on Airbnb. One of them I did a cost segregation study on, and that's incredible, right? I bought it it's a 2-bedroom.
Because you're
2-bath.
taxed so high on W-2, the cost seg for you matters so much.
I'm getting back like 50 grand, like a check back every year for the next 3 years.
And that's what people don't understand when they're in your position on W-2 making 100, 150. It's like, dude, keep doing that. And then like maybe their goal isn't to buy back your time like you, but particularly for W-2 people, cost segs are massively valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I make more than that in the W-2, which has been great. So yeah, like this condo in Brickell, I bought it for $650,000. It's a 2-2. And this is interesting.
You cost segged a condo?
Yeah.
The cost seg on condo is way less than the cost seg on a single family or duplex or 3-unit too.
I get about a third back.
Yeah, because the exterior of the building, the roof and all those things, right, are owned by the HOA. So if you would significantly increase your returns if you had a single family duplex or 3.
I do. And I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So with the condo, I bought this condo because the condo docs allowed nightly rentals.
Airbnb.
Not a lot of people knew that. It was kind of a secret.
What building?
I don't want to say it on camera. I'll tell you after.
Yeah.
I don't want to draw attention to it because it's a massive
Sure.
whole fiasco of what's going on. But so a lot of investors got in, and then they saw that Airbnb, so more and more investors got in, and then
Is
owners.
it the sale? Is it the sale?
No. And I won't say on camera. I cannot confirm nor deny. So owners that live there started to hate the Airbnb because it's more and more Airbnb guests coming in, and it's like changing the dynamic in the building. And I empathize with them. However, we're not doing anything illegal or wrong. We are abiding by the condo docs that you also bought into.
Shame on them for not reading the fine line print.
And they did, and maybe people weren't doing anything at the time with Airbnb, but now they are. Now they have a problem. So I totally empathize. However, we're investors. So some owners got so mad, they went to the city, got the city involved, and said, the city came down and basically told our HOA that, hey, we're annoyed by all these requests we're getting from owners in your building. You guys need to be a 30-day minimum because you don't have a certificate of use. Pain in the ass. Overnight, they changed the rules. We've got all these reservations on Airbnb. What are we supposed to do here? So now a group of us, we've hired an attorney, and we're going to the city and trying to get like individual certificate of uses.
Sure. Per unit, yeah.
To try to retain and keep our rights to be able to do the Airbnb. And since we lost that ability to do it now, our values have dropped. I mean, I bought it for $650 almost 2 years ago now. If I could sell it, and yes, you're able to do Airbnb, new buyer, Alec, you could probably sell it for like $850. Now you're probably buying it for like $750. It's like $100,000 in equity.
Sure.
Gone.
Wiped.
So we'll see how it shakes out. There's a good chance we can get the individual CU and still be able to do it.
This brings up an interesting thing. So I would never suggest anybody invest in a condo ever, regardless Airbnb-able or not, because situations like this, you lose so much control, right? Now, you can dive into it if it's brand new construction because you can flip it on the back end. If you buy it like in the first phase of pricing before, like typically and you might know this, but for the audience, right? New development, your cheapest pricing is right when, like at the beginning when they open up sales. And then it increases over time the closer they get to finishing because that's how the developer makes the profit, et cetera. So if you get in at that beginning development pricing, you're good to go. You can flip it on the back end for a couple hundred, typically, no problem. Before like you even have to close on it. You can just sell your contract, right? So I've seen people do that. But if you head into the condo space, you got the condo crisis going on right now with all the HOA fee increases, special assessments. I have a viral video on that on Instagram. But like there's just so much unknown, and the HOAs eat all the cash flow in that property from my experience.
And they're poorly managed a lot of times.
So what I always tell people, if you're looking to invest, I get a lot of questions from like overseas people about investing in condos. And I'm like, don't do it. And they do it anyways. And I'm like, well, you're going to be losing and you're going to be selling in 3 years. You should have just bought a duplex 3-unit or 4-unit.
Condos are sexy though, in the sense.
But you buy it for the lifestyle.
Totally.
The only way you should ever buy a condo, in my opinion, is if you're living in the damn thing because you want to live in Brickell. Maybe you're single, whatever the case is. But beyond that,
I completely agree, especially after going through it now. I agree more than ever. I think a lot of people see a condo and the amenities and the walkability, typically if you're like downtown or in Brickell or other
again, for you,
big area. But other investors see that and be like, oh my God, it has all this stuff. Yeah, I want a condo. But to your point, yeah, man, the HOAs can change the game on you. So, from that cost seg though, I was able to take that cash down payment on a house in Palm Beach Gardens, single family house, no HOA.
Palm Beach Gardens, that's a nice area.
Yeah, it is. Up and coming neighborhood.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a lower to middle class neighborhood, but calm,
perfect for rentals, right?
Peaceful, especially for Airbnb, because people don't see the neighborhood on Airbnb, it's fine. But like this guy's a tow truck driver, his truck's in the front yard. This guy is a semi truck driver, his truck's down the road. This person's an elementary school teacher. So it's a good mix of nice, calm, quiet people. So there's room for, obviously, big appreciation.
There's room for you to shake it up with all the noise of the night parties in the Airbnb.
Yeah. I've got like a noise monitor called Minute in the units. So if it does go above a certain decimal level, I get a notification to my phone.
Interesting.
So it's like, hey, there's a party going on, right? Or we sense that there's 20 people in your house. And then I have a Ring camera on the front door.
Sure.
As well. So, there's just some like tips and tricks I've learned along the way, really through like YouTubing.
100%.
What's the best things to have to prevent squatters and parties and, all these things. So all the information you want is on YouTube.
Dude, so many people don't realize that.
So yeah, I was able to do that. So this house, bought it, single family, bought it for $490,000. I've probably put about $100,000 into it with furniture. Changed the electrical. There was pool issues, new roof. We did floors and painted the cabinets, new countertops. Every little nook and cranny that was wrong with that house we fixed because the Airbnb guests will point it out to you.
And then they get their free night or whatever, right?
Well, and then they try to negotiate sometimes. And sometimes they're just being polite and trying to give good feedback too. But if you have a house that is older and you rent it to Airbnb, you're going to have hundreds of people come in there with eyes and ears on every inch. You will discover that there's problems everywhere. And
dude, the perfect house has a lot of problems.
Totally.
I always call myself an investigator as a realtor, right? Because the owner of the property that's selling it knows all the issues. It's our job to come in and find it. The perfect house, whatever it is to you, it could be in Southwest Ranches on 3 acres and 8,000 square feet mansion, $15 million, or it could be on the ocean with a massive yacht, whatever. It's going to have problems. Every single property has problems. It's your job to figure out what those problems are.
And that's the thing about real estate. I think that's can also be like part of the argument, which maybe we'll get into as well. I mean, it's a great investment for some of the tax strategies that we just discussed. But there's a lot of headaches with it. It's nothing is passive. And, if you get a great property manager, they're going to charge 20%.
See, that's where the Airbnb versus long-term rental situation comes in. Right?
Okay. What do you mean?
So there's 100 million people, probably not 100 million. There's a lot of people that have made a ton of money off Airbnb, right? I personally am very, very against Airbnb. And the reason being, you're going to pay 20%, 30, 40% for management. You got to clean it. You got all the people coming in and out. I think it's taking the real estate space and all the real estate benefits and trying to run it as an operating business. And I don't think that works very well. Real estate is meant to be a for sure 100% guaranteed, get rich, long-term investment with tax benefits. I think all the operational stuff that is required by Airbnb kind of squeezes and sucks it out and makes it more of an intensive job. So I always when I run the numbers, I'm always like, man, it just makes more sense for me to put long-term in there and then go buy a different property and focus my time and energy on creating a more long-term portfolio.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So you've got a lot of valid points. I think you go to real estate for tax savings. You're hedging against the dollar. It's a great place to park your money because long-term real estate is going to go up over time. I think on the Airbnb side, 20% is pretty like the most you should be paying for any great property manager where you don't lift a finger, right?
Or like they clean, they do all that stuff.
Well,
right?
yeah, you have a cleaning crew. I have a cleaning crew, which your guest pays the cleaning crew. You don't. That comes out of the revenue that's baked in that the part of the guest cost. So that doesn't come out of your profits per se. So you're never paying 30 or 40% for property management. If you are, you're getting ripped off. If with Airbnb, it's a great way to do all the things we discussed: tax, hedge against the U.S., or park your money, let it appreciate over time. But it's also a way to juice the returns. So I don't pay 20%. My sister's a property manager, and she'll give it to me. She'll do it for the family homie rate, right? I still don't use her because I have two ladies in the Philippines that asked for $7 an hour.
Upwork or something?
Gladly pay that. Yeah, Upwork. I think Fiverr, one of those websites.
100%.
Upwork, Fiverr, onlinejobs.ph is a great place to find virtual assistants for any industry.
Interesting.
And they all had experience already. And they do all the guest communication via text, so their English can be perfect. They speak good English as well. And it cost me like $250 a month.
That's not bad.
That's nothing.
That's very reasonable.
That's nothing. Whereas if you're doing 10 grand in revenue and you're paying 20%, right? It's $2,000. So I'm saving a fortune in that sense.
Absolutely.
So the Airbnb has been great. And because I'm Airbnb, I'm allowed to do the cost segregation study. Long-term rentals, you can't qualify for a cost segregation study.
Why not?
You have to either, maybe you can.
No, you definitely can.
I thought you have to rent it out for at least under 7 days on average.
No.
Throughout the year, or be a real estate professional.
Well, the real estate professional thing might be true, but that means that you have what, three or four properties under your belt.
To do a cost seg, I'm pretty sure your average rental time has to be under 7 days.
I know for a fact that's not true. I think so. I think what might be mixing up, because you can cost seg a property that is like under your personal name, but you've swapped to a rental.
That's a 1031. Oh no. Okay, that's not a 1031 exchange.
So like a lot of people are like, oh, hey, I live in this property, and they call me and they're like, hey, I want to do a cost seg, and I'm like, the only way you can cost seg a property is if you rent it out. So then what they'll do is they'll go buy another place and rent that one out, and once they start renting that one out, then they can cost seg it.
Okay,
anyway,
I wasn't aware.
Yeah,
I wasn't aware you could do it on a long-term rental. I thought it was either one of the two.
No, because
short stays, or you're a real estate professional, or your spouse is, and you guys qualify for that.
I don't know, but I just know that a lot of the people that I've worked with have done it, and they're long-term.
Okay.
And when you invest in a big commercial building, for example, like a fund, you can cost seg that property even if it's not short-term rental, and that cost segregation tax savings will pass through to you as the investor as well. And that's a big approach from the big commercial guys too. So
nice.
It's interesting.
Nice. Well, I've got this house. I haven't done the cost seg on it yet. It would definitely qualify. I don't know if I want to do it or not. I mean, my interest rate is 7.25%. So I can't wait for rates to come down even further. And I don't know, what do you think next year? I mean, should I do a cost seg on it, which, okay, you're trapped into that property now. If you sell it, you either have to pay recapture tax or you have to 1031 into a like property. So if I cost seg, like I'm glued to this condo now, I don't think I can 1031 out of the condo into a house in Fort Lauderdale with a pool.
I think it depends on your tax guy.
Okay.
And your intermediary.
Well, I'm
right. Cause one thing I did is so the last property in Madison, Wisconsin that I sold, we made $600K net profit in 6 months. That's when I really realized how valuable real estate was. $100K a month, $600K.
That's a
I was
home run.
like, holy shit. So what we did is we sold that property and bought 3 smaller properties, right? It was like a duplex, a 3-unit, another duplex, right? So we took all that money, and because it was we sold it for $1.9 million. In Wisconsin, that's a big property. Like, we didn't want to buy another luxury property. I was ready to move down here. So we took that and dropped it 3-unit, 2-unit, 2-unit. So like and similar, I guess, is kind of a loose gray area term, right? So with your condo, you might be able to get out of that and do something else as long as it's an investment property. I don't know. You'd have to talk to the tax guy and you'd have to figure that out, work it with the intermediary. But there's like a bunch of different options from my understanding.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I thought I was stuck to it. So I will have that conversation and maybe something can,
or you put that shit in a
there.
trust and sell it and then you don't pay any capital gains taxes at all.
I have a trust, put it under my trust, sell it, and don't pay any capital gains tax or the recapture tax.
This is the first time I'm talking about this. So at the end of this month, I'm going to Family Offices Club. There's an event in Brooklyn, and then the big one is down here in Key Biscayne. And so it's a $10,000 membership, and in joining this club, I've been in talks with a bunch of estate people, right? And estate attorneys are kind of similar to realtors or medical device sales, where certain people say you can do things, other people say you can't do them. It's kind of up to the writer of the trust, for example. So in learning this, there's something called, and the IRS just released a letter on it. It's like the Spendthrift Irrevocable something trust. It's like a 5-term trust. And what happens with this trust is you put your property in there or your stocks. And because there's no distribution, your 1040 tax return is your personal tax. And I'm not a tax guy.
This is not financial advice.
Exactly. So when you have a trust, if you don't distribute that income or those capital gains down to your personal 1040 tax return, there's no distribution. So it takes away all needs for a 1031 exchange, which means you have no 3-month time frame on buying another property. And you don't realize those gains because it's not distributed down to you. It's held in corpus of the trust, right? So this is adding a whole nother just massively valuable layer. And
for buying real estate. Why wouldn't everyone do a cost seg then and then just keep deferring the capital gains?
So with this trust, you don't have to cost seg at all because there's no gains at all. Well, I guess you could if you're trying to write off your W-2 income like you're talking about.
Yeah, get the money back.
Yeah. So I guess
that's interesting.
It's a very interesting, and I'm very excited for this event that I'm going to, because I think they're like this family offices are the highest you can go, right? Like they manage the most money, they're investing in all the real estate, doing the most. So I'm excited to walk away with a connection. Like, damn, this trust is super interesting. So I'm happy to share with you on the back end.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'm going to look into that for sure. And I'm going to be giving my tax guy a call about that.
But I've spent probably $3,000 talking to attorneys trying to find somebody local here in Florida that does this, right? And they're like, no, you can't do it that way. And I'm like, why not? This guy in Texas says I can do it this way. So my investment into this family office is like, I'm going to the highest level. I'm paying $10,000 to figure out a goddamn relationship that knows like if I can or cannot do this. So yeah, it's like everybody has their own opinion.
Well, what I love that you're doing and something else I'm a big fan of is paying for information.
Shortcut, straight to the point.
You're speeding up the process of getting the right information from
100%.
the right people who are currently doing it legally.
100%.
So I'm sure. So I can't tell you how many groups, masterminds, things I have joined, spent $5,000, $10,000 on just to get in, speed up the time. I don't want to YouTube it all myself. And now, so I'll give you a prime example. So, right, medical sales, active income, I pop it into Airbnb, generating some Airbnb money from that, tax strategies, that's cool. It's not, let me go retire kind of money though, right? And real estate takes a while to appreciate. So how do I get out of this corporate rat race even faster? Cody Sanchez, we talked about before we started rolling the podcast. She's big on buying businesses. I started looking at that. Another guy I know is doing talking about private equity. That's how you can really build business. I follow another guy on Instagram, and he's been super successful. He has like $80,000 a month cash flowing to him, and he works 20 hours a week. He owns 6 businesses. He's part owner in most of them. Great. What's this all about? So $5,000 to join his group. Okay. Because I followed him on Instagram enough. He has shown and proven his personal brand to me. I'm convinced. And because I'm making money, I've got options.
I'm sure he's rolling around in Louis Vuitton with a Rolls Royce and 7 AP watches on, right?
A lot of people in Miami are. This guy's not.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why you trust him.
I try to veer clear from those guys.
Exactly why you trust him.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, fake influencers like that. So I get in and they teach you everything about buying a business, how to find deals, where to find them, how to analyze these deals, how to structure a LOI, a letter of intent. I just sent one in yesterday on a $2 million accounting firm.
That's amazing.
Why am I buying an accounting firm? Because this guy broke it down. He owns one and convinced me, and I did my own research. Cody Sanchez says yes, and now I'm in this whole world of acquisitions, right? Amazing. Why? I'm going to buy a business. I don't want to buy a job. I want to buy a business that has a good team and staff in place with a tax manager, right? I'm looking for CPAs that just want to retire, not because the business is shit and they want to get out of it. Nope. They're 65 years old. 100%. They've worked for 40 years. They want to unload it to somebody else. Perfect. So,
and there's still opportunity to increase revenue by getting new customers, making efficiencies. It's the same exact thing as real estate.
Totally.
It's like you're either in PE buying businesses or you're in PE buying real estate.
100%. And it's also diversifying too.
Yes.
I've got the real estate. I've got the active income. Let me go buy this. If I can buy an accounting firm that already has a team in place, I'm just the owner. Now, of course, in the first 6 months, I'm going to be hands-on. I'll probably have to go there and be in the office for a little bit, and I'll take PTO from my job over here to go and to do that and to learn it. But I'm really doing my due diligence on the front end to make sure I'm not buying myself a job.
100%.
You know what I mean? Where I can do it minimal time spent. And I'm able to go there or able to even search and look for these deals because I'm in outside sales.
Sure.
I'm not in an office.
It takes a while to underwrite. Yeah.
With a boss over my shoulder saying, what are you looking on the computer there?
Yeah.
At bizbuysell.com. Get out. What? Call some people.
100%.
So that's the huge difference. I've got options.
That's amazing. I think that's super intelligent. The one thing that I would say about that is like a lot of people say diversify, right? I read Pioneering Portfolio Management by David Swenson. His big thesis, he took Yale's endowment from like 2 billion to like 10 billion or something crazy. And he's like, diversify. Right now, the way I look at it is like, I'm not ready to diversify because I've made so much money in real estate that I don't feel comfortable. I'm not at that point where I've made the life-changing amount of money and then now I'm just trying to stack on. But until I reach that life-changing amount of money until I reach that point where money doesn't matter and doesn't change my lifestyle, then I'm going to go diversify and probably buy a business and things of this sort. But and I've never bought a business, but to match the returns I make on real estate, when you talk about 600K in 6 months, like that's an astronomical return. So for me personally, where I'm at, real estate. You know what I mean?
I love that.
I implore you though. That's amazing. And you're going to get so much knowledge, so much experience. How many people in their life can even say that they've bought a business?
Yeah.
Like zero.
Yeah, not many. But you bring up an awesome point. Everyone has their own lane. You know,
100%.
like you've been able to find real estate and get a groove and stay in it and be in it where it's like you find these opportunities. And I've made some money in real estate, but not money where I'm flying on a private jet to go take care of my mom or what have you, right?
Exactly.
So I'm kind of throwing stuff at the wall and I see a real light at the end of the tunnel here for my main goal. Get out of this rat race in the corporate world.
100%.
That can immediately, I've got money, I've got cash. Let me deploy it because it achieves my main objective. I'm no longer dependent on this active W-2 income.
100%.
I now have income from this firm that I can also take my sales skills and grow it.
Yeah, so you'd just be outside sales for the
my own
CPA
business.
company instead of the med company.
Building my own business instead of somebody else's business.
Absolutely.
We've achieved another objective of mine.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of my path there.
Are you financing it, or are you going to take a couple investors in with you, or what's the approach there?
SBA loan.
SBA loan, love that.
SBA loan, yeah. So it's a government-backed loan. They guarantee the loan to the seller, and so yeah, using the good old Uncle Sam dollars to do it. It'll be 10% down from me. I'm going to ask the seller to carry anywhere from 10 to 20% of the purchase price.
Absolutely.
My current accountant, he is the credentialed professional, which I needed to even get my foot in the door and have a conversation with the seller, to even have a conversation with the broker.
Sorry, who is he?
So because this business I'm looking to buy is an accounting firm, they typically only sell to CPAs or enrolled agents.
Okay.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
So they won't even take my calls. The broker won't even take my call. If I said, I'll give you your asking price, they're like, dude, you'll never close on this thing, or you'll destroy the business. And these are all clients that I built and love and care about.
Yeah.
Buzz off.
Interesting.
Hey, I want to buy your business, but I'm also partnered with this CPA. Here's their website. We're the real deal.
Because they have the operational insight.
Yeah, and the industry experience.
Yeah. Interesting. That's super cool, man.
So I'm giving him 10%.
Yeah.
Just to kind of be consultant for me
Absolutely.
and to get the deal done.
Absolutely. I think that's super intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear how that unfolds. So keep me in the loop on that, man, because
Hopefully we get the LOI accepted.
that's an exciting time.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So yeah, that's just one business or one industry I'm looking at. You know, accounting firms like laundromats are great. Something that can be
Laundromats are interesting to me.
very semi-passive.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
That's what I'm looking for. I want something that's semi-passive, something that has recurring revenue, right? Laundromats, everyone's got to keep doing their laundry. So people get sticky to it, especially if it's near where they live. It's a bit of a barrier to entry because a lot of SBAs won't finance them. A lot of lenders will only finance 60% or so of a purchase price. So you've got to have about 40% to put down on a laundromat. Not a lot of people do. A lot of people that are trying to get financing only have 5, 10% or a little bit of cash.
So where my mind goes would be bring on another partner that has the capital, and then you kind of operationally go in there and do the thing, right?
100%. If you had
If you have
$40%,
$0,
I would say, hey, here's the deal. I need $400,000. I'm putting in $0, but I'm operating it. I'm projecting a 20% return on your $400,000, and then we can exit in 7 years. Here's what the industry exits look like, something like this, if we continue to scale at that.
How is a laundromat so valuable, though? I mean, to me, every new building that goes up has an in-unit washer and dryer.
Yeah, but so
It's
many of them
low-income
don't.
areas. I get it.
New buildings, but think about how many areas don't have newer buildings and how many lower class and even middle class neighborhoods and areas don't have these new buildings with in-unit washer and dryers. I lived in LA for almost 9 years. 6 or 7 of those years, all my apartments did not have a washer and dryer in the unit.
Wow.
There was like a few on the ground level that we had to share amongst the building.
Yeah.
You come to Miami and they're in every unit.
Yeah.
Right? Or you would take it and go to a laundromat.
Yeah.
So
People don't want like skin flakes of other people in their clothes. You know what I mean?
So gross, right? So gross.
Yeah.
So yeah, because
Cody's always talking about laundromats.
not everything is
laundromat,
gentrified. So many people still depend on laundromats.
Well, so before I do anything, right, it's getting to 100 episodes because I deem that as credible, right? Somebody comes to me, everybody says, Alec, why don't you have advertising here, advertising there? Why aren't you partnering with local businesses on the viewership? Why aren't you doing this, that? Why don't you do an intro explaining who you like to have on your podcast? A couple of my buddies said, man, we have no idea what you're talking about on this podcast. Like I'll clip it out and put it on IG. And they're like, we have no idea. Like it just comes out of nowhere and we don't really know what to expect. I'm like, man, I don't even really care about what you have to say because I'm trying to get to 100 episodes as fast as possible. And yes, that might be bad on my end, like not listening to the feedback of my consumer, right? Like that's a very important thing to understand. But at my point, I'm not even worried about that.
Yeah, dude, because in your journey of getting to 100 episodes, you'll probably find exactly what you want to talk about.
100%.
What hits? What is your audience attracted to? What's 100%. Getting the most views? What do you get the best conversations out of?
Exactly. It's and I know that nothing good is going to happen from this podcast for 5 years. So it's a 5-year investment at the get. Like I expect $0, and I'm building relationships, right? Like you're a great guy. Appreciate meeting you. We can kind of wherever this relationship is going to take us, it's going to take us, right? But it's like I'm not worried about anything except for becoming a credible podcast person. The amount that I've changed in 19 episodes is astronomical. After every episode, I go and sit down and I write and kind of document the process and like you as a guest and how we communicated, what I do differently. Before I didn't have this TV and it stopped recording, we missed 20 minutes of footage. You know what I mean? But like I wrote that in the documentary. So I can go like when I'm like, hey, every realtor should have a podcast. Here's your playbook. You know what I mean? There's so many ways that this can go, but 5 years minimum. No questions asked.
Well, and you'll probably go the distance because you're setting realistic expectations. A lot of people don't know. And it sounds like you've done your research, what it takes to be successful in podcasting. A lot of people get into it and they're like, oh, episode 3, no one's watching. I got no subscribers. This is hard. I quit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, you got to stay in it. And Bradley, you know who Bradley is?
Bro, dropping bombs. I'm actually in talks with him about going on, but I'm not going to do it till I get to 100 episode 110. You know what I mean?
So he says that. Yeah. So I've heard him say, do 100 episodes, then ask me to be on.
So,
And there's something to that,
bro,
because it shows Bradley you're serious.
and I know how to talk.
And for him to put his brand on your show, and then for you just to skip town the next day and do nothing with it.
Robert Martinez was the first podcast I was on. He owns like probably $3 billion in real estate in Texas. And this was back when I was 21. I met him through Grant Cardone, and it ended up working out, and I went on his podcast. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. It was embarrassing. Embarrassing. I embarrassed myself. I felt bad for him. He was in such he's way up here and I'm way down here, right? Now,
Blow an opportunity, but a lesson learned.
Exactly. And me talking about him is free advertising. I'm never going to forget that moment. I have his cell phone number. He has done tremendous things for me, right? But now if I were to go on, wildly different, right? And I'm only 20 episodes in. And I'm finding out the uncomfortable stuff to talk about performs very well on social media. So when episode 5, I felt very uncomfortable talking about certain things. I couldn't formulate my opinions. But now I'm kind of, as we move, I don't know if selling my soul to media is the right term, but I'm shitting on realtors. I'm a realtor. I don't fucking care that I'm shitting on realtors, right? Like sometimes realtors will sell property or get somebody to buy property that isn't in their best interest because they're commission-based pay. I'm comfortable saying that. How many realtors are comfortable saying that? Not many, because it tarnishes their reputation, all these things. So I'm at a very interesting point in my life where kind of like you're going from 9 to 5 to 1099 or your own business. I'm going in on social media, and it's interesting.
I love that.
Super interesting, bro.
I love that journey, man, because you've got something you want to say, you've got value you want to give, and that is what's fulfilling you at this stage in your life. Mm-hmm. And I'm not far behind you for going in on content as well. I just want to do it when I'm really financially comfortable.
Because you have to sell your soul
outside of that W-2.
Because you have to sell your soul.
What do you mean by that?
You will realize once you've posted 1,300 posts on IG and only have 7,500 followers.
Okay.
Do you know how shitty that feels? How much time I've invested on Instagram and I only have 7,500 followers?
Right.
That is fucking horrible. That's terrifying.
Right.
Hours and hours and editing. You know how long it takes to edit this podcast? Double the time it takes to shoot it. Right? And I'm doing that. Should I leverage it out via Upwork for $5 an hour? Probably. Am I? No, because I'm going to do 100 episodes. You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of the people you see on social media buy followers. I understand that. I'm not stupid. I know that because I've posted 1,300 posts and I know how much engagement each post get. It's fucking hard to grow. Mm-hmm. It is deeply hard. So I don't know, man. It's like especially you have to sell your soul.
In today's world, everyone is fighting for everyone's attention. Everyone has TikTok brain, right? Everyone has 2-second attention span nowadays. So it is hard to get people's attention. But, you know, I think you'll continue to collab with other people. And I don't know if I can give advice on how to grow. I'm sure there's a YouTube on it.
Yeah.
You know, but I think just stay authentic, dude. Talk about the things you want to talk about and just continue to give value.
Sometimes you have to say things you don't believe in. I'll tell you that right now because it performs well. I say some stuff that I don't believe in and I truly am against, but it performs well on Instagram. So I'll say it.
Well, I think your statement right now will perform better than maybe saying something you don't believe in, at least long term.
I'm open and honest, yeah.
Because you're being authentic. And the people that are watching will continue to stick with you and watch and see your progression. It's an
interesting perspective.
You can say a one-off and do something crazy. Maybe you get some eyeballs until the next Jake Paul or somebody else does something even crazier. Exactly. And then they're not sticking with you.
Exactly.
But if you're authentic and you're giving value, you're serving your audience, I think those people are going to stick with you and grow and then share it to their friends.
But think of how many people are trying to give real estate advice like me. 70,000 in Miami. Think of how many people, like if you want to be passionate and talk about businesses, for example, and it'll be interesting to see this unfold for you, right? You're going to go and do that, but how many other people are trying to do that, right? So like you think that you can build this like super deep audience base based off of just talking about this one specific thing, but if you don't add a pizzazz and a switch up and a flair to it, it just doesn't work.
I'm going to push back on you.
It's so interesting.
I'm going to push back, and here's why.
Hit me.
So this guy, his name is Ben Kelly.
Okay.
Shout out Ben Kelly. He's probably going to change my life with the acquisition knowledge his group has given me.
Okay.
Okay. He's got 444,000 followers on Instagram. The only woman he follows, it looks like, is his wife.
Okay.
Christian man. I think he was in the military as well. Every post on his Instagram is all about buying businesses. Here's how you analyze it. Here's the businesses I buy. Here's where you look for deals. Here's where you do this and that.
Can I see his Instagram real quick?
Yeah. So there's nothing controversial. There's nothing scandalous. He's a clean cut guy. And his following is growing. His community is growing massively because he's giving free value on his Instagram. You can literally figure out how to buy a business just by going to his Instagram.
How many members are in his group?
When I joined a month ago, there was probably 800 or 1,000.
Okay.
I've been in a month. I think there's a couple hundred more now.
Okay.
So it is growing like crazy.
Now, I don't know this guy for sure, but I'm guessing some of those views and followers are fake. I'm willing to bet.
Maybe.
Grant Cardone, Robert Martinez, all these people buy fake followers.
Sure.
And it's such an interesting space to get in. But he's at 440,000 with maybe 2,000 members in the group, right? You said the buy-in cost was 10,000?
Anywhere from 5 to 10 grand.
Let's call it 10 grand, right? So 1,000 on 10 grand is what, $1 million?
Yeah.
$1 million bucks.
Yeah.
Right? So that's an amazing group and just sound thing to be a part of, right? But I'm guessing his real following isn't 440,000.
Maybe.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about. You can still close deals and make a ton of money and provide a ton of value and become a multi-millionaire off of closing just 1,000 or 2,000 people. Because that's a gift that keeps on giving. That's his community. But as far as like outreach and actual exposure and stuff, that's kind of what I'm talking about is like, it's a wading game, right? Like you got to wade through, I don't know. It's so interesting. I'm excited for you to kind of go through this process. And maybe I've struggled because I haven't made content that's quality, right? Quality content always performs better. So
Bradley's got this beautiful studio. And he's got the money to build it, and he's got interesting guests coming in.
He bought
and
fake followers, though. He has fake followers.
I thought he didn't.
No, bro.
He says he didn't.
Nope. The reason I know is because I bought followers from the guy that sold to him.
He says he didn't.
No, I know for a fact.
And his whole brand is being real.
Nope. I know for a fact.
If you get in front of him and you say that, he's going to call you out and push back. I guarantee it. Interesting. That I have no idea if it's true or not.
I'll send
the
guy to you. But
okay.
He's out of North Carolina or South Carolina. He kind of brands himself as like a Batman kind of guy. I forget his name, but that's who I bought followers from. And then I manually unfollowed all of them because I realized what was happening to my engagement and stuff. Now, Brad Lee also has Lightspeed VT, right? Which he funnels all of his audience into. So he has like, you can, like I said, you can still make a ton of that money. But it's, the followers are where it gets interesting.
Yeah, I haven't tackled that or gone after that yet, but it's a whole nother animal.
It is, bro.
I'm sure.
It's wild.
I'm
But
sure.
Let's segue out of this. Let's dive into more about like you and what else do you want to talk about here?
Yeah.
Is there anything?
Man, for me, it's just kind of sharing my experience about how you're not stuck in the corporate rat race. Mm-hmm. You can not be so beholden to a company, which, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of companies probably don't really care about their employees because if you're not performing or whatever, they'll cut you, you're fired. So, you know, my whole MO is just empowering people to get financially free, get financially comfortable so they can move around, have some options and some freedom. And so I hope we were able to convey some value and some strategies on how to do that today, where maybe they can go home and start searching and YouTubing. So yeah, that was really my whole mission.
Do you have a significant other?
I do not.
Let's talk about the date. Are you comfortable talking about the dating scene in Miami?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm looking for Mrs. Right. I'm Mrs. Right now.
Let's do it, man.
There's been a lot of Mrs. Right nows here in Miami.
What do you mean by Mrs. Right now?
Yeah, I mean, Mrs. Right is the girl I think that has her own relationship with God, is actively pursuing that, because default from that, you hope there comes a sense of morals and values. And I think that relationships are tough. There's always going to be disagreements and problems, but at least if God is at the center where both people are doing that, I think your chances statistically are a lot higher to get through those tough times when you have that as your center, your core. And I think in big cities, especially in big cities. I think a lot of people move here from smaller cities because they think the grass is greener from small town in Ohio or Kansas or whatever. And they come to a bigger city like Miami.
That's me.
Exactly. Me too. Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Florida, right? And you think the grass is greener. And I think they take that same mindset into dating. And especially when we're in a world of social media and apps, dating apps and things like that, the option fatigue can really take a play into getting to know someone or dating. And so I have fallen victim to that many times, and I've probably lost a couple great girls because of that. I wasn't ready to commit or go all in. I was still looking around doing my thing. And so, yeah, I think it's a journey, and it's, definitely leaned on God to make me the man I am sitting here in front of you to, be ready for Mrs. Right.
Which church you go to?
Down here, I go to VU Church.
Bro, you're the 6th person out of 7 episodes that has said that.
It's the biggest church, the most popular one.
I went for the first time last Sunday. It's great.
How'd you like it?
I went to South Miami. It was good. Definitely going back this week.
Awesome, man. I love to hear that. Yeah,
Super
it's good. It's Christian, non-denominational, come as you are. The music's good, and Pastor Rich, I think we're blessed to have him. He does a really, really great job. He's an excellent communicator. I look for churches that preach from the Bible, that aren't so much just life coaching. I think you get a lot of that nowadays, but can also make it relatable to life from the Bible, because what they told us in the Bible, we're seeing it play out today.
Sure.
And the best game for a man to approach and court a woman is in Proverbs, or is in the Bible.
Sure.
So it's crazy how much wisdom is there. And I love to see great communicators like Rich. Preach.
Yeah, he did a great job on last Sunday, kind of tying it in at the end. He ended with a big hoorah, and it was awesome, man. Can we dive deeper into what are you seeing as far as girls here in Miami?
Man, I think a lot of girls here in Miami live up to the cliches. Guys too. I think there's a lot of successful people here. There's a lot of successful guys from all over the world that come for the season, and they're millionaires on yachts, and they invite this girl on a yacht, or girls, because she's pretty. And so I think girls have this entitlement syndrome when they come back and date a guy who's not a multi-gazillionaire with a yacht in the backyard. And so you're kind of dealing with some of that mentality of entitlement. Whereas, that man had to work his ass off and buy the yacht. She got on the yacht because she's really pretty. Okay, that's kind of the way the world works. That's fine. That's the world we're living in. That's cool. So I do think you deal with that a little bit. I do think you have girls with the mentality of grass is always greener. So I try to just block out all the Miami sauce that's in a lot of people here. And fortunately, I've been able to meet great people and have a good community through like a VU church, through a business networking group I'm a part of. And so I try to be in the world, not of the world.
Sure.
In that sense.
I know in my friend group that there's a couple of women that like the older guys because they do get to go to the penthouses or they do get to go to the yachts. Now, I've never done the Miami dating scene because I met my girlfriend and we moved down here together. Midwest, like nuclear family kind of situation where everybody's married with kids at 24 years old.
That's the way it should be. We need to get back to that.
Yeah. And nowadays, like there's so many males and females that are like, oh, let me get my business set first. I need to make X amount of money. Then they keep pushing this down the line, right? And then it's a tough conversation of like, okay, we have to do in vitro because the female can't get pregnant or whatever the case may be. I know in Coral Gables, like that's not an uncommon thing. Right? It's like, this is my last chance to like have a baby, like, or I'm turning 50 years old and I can't. So I think the world as a whole is kind of in that interesting space. A little bit tricky to navigate, but I do think people should be having kids, a lot of kids. I think
that's the best thing you can do in the world is procreate.
Bro,
that's the full human experience.
Biological purpose. Our biological purpose is to create and keep humanity alive. So go have those babies. Man, it's crazy though. It's crazy.
I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole of why I think people are not having babies anymore.
Let's do it.
And so I'll just stick a toe in the rabbit hole. I think it's by design.
For real.
I think it's by design. I think if you keep the nuclear family divided, right, or you empower the woman to go be this boss babe, career-driven woman, which if that's what she wants to do and that is what fills her up, by all means, go for it. On the flip side, it also takes away that woman who's that nurturer and beautiful emotional being with that beautiful feminine energy that we need as masculine men. We need that. Who better to raise those children than the mother, right? But if she is boss babe and at her career and doing that, who's raising the kids, you know? And so there also is a play on that too, where it's like that woman doesn't need that man to protect and provide anymore.
Sure.
So I feel like there's just this elitist agenda in the world to keep the nuclear family divided. Also, if the woman works and has this big career, that's more tax income for the government and the people all the way at the top.
People in general are the biggest valuable asset the world has to offer, right? Because then you got BlackRock, Blackstone, all owning all these food companies, drink companies. The more people that consume those, the better. The more people that cannot afford to buy their own property and rent their properties, crazy, right? I know I had a conversation, and it's a tough conversation to have, but there's a gentleman on here, and he's like, man, the border's open, it's interesting, but all these people coming in are never going to be able to afford to buy a property. So let's say you're Blackstone, you own 10,000 units at $2,000 a month, and all of these people coming in are going to rent from you for the next 70 years of their lives. Blackstone, BlackRock, they love that. That's the best investment one could ever make, is by letting people come in that are never going to be wealthy. I don't know. Interesting.
100%.
So as you start talking about this nuclear family divide and just... But why attack creation, which is making more humans, which is going to make the top more money?
I'll answer that. Before I do, I want to just give a follow-up point about the woman saying, you know, I don't need a man or to protect and provide because I've got this great career. And so I think that woman is right in deciding that, because I do think we have a lot of weak men in the world these days. I don't think men are men like we used to have in our 100%. Fathers' generations and the generations before that. I think a lot of men are losing their masculinity, and I think that's also by design.
I agree.
Look at what we're seeing in today's media, right?
I agree.
It's creating a lot of chaos and confusion for a lot of people. And when you do that, you divide, you keep them dumbed down, divided, and that's how you can control people.
Exactly.
That's
they want to own everything at the top, and for us to own nothing.
It's the art of war. So why would they do that so people aren't having so many babies, making things so expensive? So you have the DINK, dual income, no kids, right? Yep. Couples get together and do that. Why is that a thing nowadays? Well, because it is expensive to have kids, and the elitists, they think we're overpopulated. We're weighing on the Earth's resources.
Even though the amount of humans on Earth is going down, declining.
I don't know if it is or it isn't. I think that
Elon says it's declining. I don't know. I trust him.
Yeah, I mean, the birth rates in a lot of countries are declining, especially in America.
So Section 8, for example, one of the easiest ways to get the most out of Section 8 is to have as many kids as possible with the same guy, right? There's, like, I own Section 8 properties. The females have 6, 7, 8 kids in there, right? They get more money from the government. So that's incentivizing them to have kids, but it doesn't incentivize, and that's government money, right?
Yeah.
But then it doesn't incentivize the high earners and the people that should be having the most amount of kids to have kids.
Right.
So it's like they're flopping it. It's like, let's let the wealthy, successful people try to get them to not have kids, but all the people that are leeching off of us that we can control for the rest of eternity, that are never going to have money, never going to own anything, let's load them up and support them to have kids. So it's this whole like swap it mentality that I think we're seeing, which is wildly interesting, bro.
Right. And those people at the top that control policies, control laws, that are CEOs of these big companies that can buy up 90% of the single family homes.
Exactly.
Do you think they're intelligent or do you think they're not?
No, they're wildly intelligent.
They're wildly intelligent. And this is what they're doing, right? So
Exactly.
there's got to be a reason behind it.
100%.
What's the reason behind it, right? So you start connecting the dots and looking at it, because they're not really idiots. We might call people in Congress or our lawmakers or whatever idiots.
They know exactly what they're doing.
Nancy Pelosi is the best stock trader of all time. Okay, these are not idiotic people. They're very intelligent people, and there's mischievous things happening, right? So why is that? So I think that people like Patrick Bet-David and other voices in the world are talking about these things more and more. So I think it's important for people to kind of start questioning, waking up,
at least
doing
question
some
and get
research.
educated on both sides.
Totally.
Like have that YouTube veg out session where you go in YouTube for like 30 hours and at least figure out what's going on. Don't be so blind to it.
Get your money right. Love God. Love your family. Be independent thinkers. Do some research. And at the end of the day, man, we can't really control what these lawmakers are going to do. You can hope to have a platform and a voice, then you can maybe have some impact. Having money can have some influence as well. But at the end of the day, you just got to love God and believe in Him, and know that all things are in His hands.
That's awesome, man. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Man, I just appreciate you having me in. I'm excited to see your 100th episode when you get to that milestone, and
we're fifth of the way there.
Having me on, man.
Thank you. Where can the audience find you? What I'm going to do on YouTube here is like put your handle or wherever you want to send them, or wherever they can find you. So
yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest, at Stephen Helmkamp.
Okay, amazing. That's down below. Thank you so much for coming in, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.